inductee into the Murray State University Hall of Fame, Mr. Bob Doty. Membership in this very elite group goes back a long way. When you consider the first athletic teams at Murray State began in 1923, and since that time, thousands of young men and women have represented this university on the athletic fields. Only 122 have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. So it's a very elite group. Now, when you add to that Bob Doty and his daughter, Jill, are the first father-daughter inductees, it becomes even more significant and more special. What a combination. Jill was inducted in the 2007 class, along with Mr. Dennis Jackson, whom I will say something else about a little bit later. Bob Doty attended high school and grew up in the town of St. Elmo, Illinois. Now, I don't know if you know where St. Elmo is or not, but I'm going to tell you. It's just a few miles west of Effingham. St. Elmo is the patron saint of sailors and is usually represented by a bolt of lightning. The mascot of St. Elmo High School is an eagle. Eagles fly. Now, when you put together a bolt of lightning that can fly, you have a picture of Bob Doty. Bob won the 100-yard dash for the entire state of Illinois. He was the fastest person in the state of Illinois before they had classifications. He won the 100-yard dash. Now, his daughter Jill, later on, won the same title in the 100 meter. But Bob reminds her they didn't have class systems when he won it, and they did when she won it. And he continues to remind her of that. Now, I'm not going to tell you about all of the records that Bob set when he was at Murray State in 1961 and 1965. They're in your program. They are many and they are impressive. But the thing that you may not realize that he didn't have the all-weather Marshall Gage track that they have in Stewart Stadium. He had an old cinder track in Cutchin Stadium, which was located where the soccer field is now, just to the east of the Curry Student Center. And he had to run on that old cinder track. He had a train on it. They ran meets there. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, speed is something you either have or you don't have. You're born with it. Coaches love it. But coaches can't produce speed. If you are born with fast twitch muscle fibers, you're fast. If you're like me, I have extra slow muscle twitch fibers, and they describe my running like a faucet in the same place all the time. But Bob had those fast twitch muscle fibers, which gave him speed. Now, since coaches can't produce speed, they have to rely on some other factors. They can enhance speed by teaching you technique. ways to get out of the blocks, arm movements, breath control. So they can enhance it with technique. They can enhance it by competition. And they can enhance it with conditioning. And that brings us to Murray State. Bob Doty had the good fortune to have a coach at Murray State who is a Hall of Famer, the late Bill Ferguson. And he provided him with some technique. But he also provided him with some competition. And they brought big-time major universities into Murray, and they competed against these same types of schools on the road. And he also provided him with some competition by the name of Dennis Jackson, who was a graduate of the old Douglas High School right here in Murray. And Dennis was one of the first black athletes at Murray State, he and Stuart Johnson. There was another fellow from Missouri, I believe it was, Benny, by the name of Tom Officer, but he didn't stay. So things were a little bit different back then than they are today. Remember, this was in the early 60s. And Bill Ferguson, knowing the type of person Bob Doty was, called him into the office and he said, "Bob, I want you to room with Dennis Jackson when we're on trips." Now this was back in the 60s, and the prejudices, the injustices toward a black, and especially a black athlete, were rampant. They went to a meet, I believe it, Dennis told me it was an OVC championship at Murfreesboro at Middle Tennessee University. And they would not allow Dennis to stay in the same hotel with the Murray State team. I guess what Bob Doty did. He finds where Dennis is, and he slips him into the hotel, into his room, where he stayed for the entire meet, and they never did discover it. That's the kind of person Bob Doty is. They were good friends then, and they're good friends now. Dennis told me that Bob Doty was fast. Dennis told me that Dennis Jackson was fast. And the only person who could beat Dennis in a race was Bob Doty. And he added, "And he's white." It's quite a compliment. They competed against each other in the 100 and the 220, and there were teammates. They were teammates in the 440, and occasionally in the mile relay. Dennis told me to be sure and tell everyone that he ran the third leg in the relay. And as a result, he gave Bob such a great lead that Bob could jog in and win the event. What the team decided to do after that experience in Murfreesboro, never again would they stay anywhere or eat in any restaurant that would not allow Dennis Jackson to be present. And they set a precedent. Bob has a great sense of humor. Those of you around Murray who know him can attest to that. And this final story will illustrate that. They had a meet here in Murray with the University of Wisconsin. And the University of Wisconsin had a mile relay team that was of national acclaim. They were fast. Dennis and Bob had competed in the 100 and the 220, and Coach Ferguson said, I want you guys to run the third and anchor leg on the mile relay. When Dennis handed the baton to Bob Doty, the runner running the anchor for the University of Wisconsin was so far ahead, with all of Bob Doty's speed, there was no way he could catch him. There was no way. But to the amazement of the anchor for the University of Wisconsin, Bob Doty passed him at the finish line and won the event, only to be disqualified because he saw he was so far behind that when he got to the 50-yard line in the backstretch, he cut across the infield, unknown to the Wisconsin runner, and he had the strangest look on his face. Folks, I was there. I saw him run in a lot of events, and I saw him disqualified in that event, and I'm sure he'll have something to say about that. Bob Doty's high school track shoes have been bronze, and they're in the trophy case at St. Elmo High School. We were talking the other day, some of his so-called friends, and we decided that it was really a good thing that Bob never had the chance to participate in the Olympics. And what happened, they had the Olympic trials, but Murray State did not have enough money to send him to the trials. But had Bob participated in those trials, he would have made the team. And we are convinced that if he had won a gold medal, he would have brought it home and had it bronze. Ladies and gentlemen, would you give a warm welcome to a long overdue, much deserved honoree, this year's 2012 class, Murray State University Hall of Fame honoree, Mr. Bob Doty.